Of course, it's going to be this way. Because every time I close it out, it changes the source for the video. Sorry about the delay, folks. I'm having all kinds of technical issues today, and for some reason, Discord updated, and I think that's the problem. Because I didn't have these issues before, and this update.
This is the only thing that changed. Considering if we couldn't find a good Broadway show to go see Taylor Swift's Eras Tour movie in one of the theaters, which I still want to see, but we didn't end up doing that.
You know, with our luck, we would have seen it at the theater where Taylor Swift actually was, because she was in New York this weekend.
Right.
Was she? Was she at the football game?
She was at SNL.
Doing something. She introduced she introduced the singer on SNL for the second set.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are back. Video's back up. So we're gonna. Josh, anything else from New York Comic Con we want to talk about before we move on to today's main topic?
I mean, we could go on and on and on. There was a lot of fun stuff. It was a good time, and it was a better time because Alan was with me. So, always a pleasure.
Same here, bud. Like, highlight of my fall so far. So, just because we had so much packed into the last few days, I am still like exhausted. So, and I will be until Halloween probably. So, all right.
My gift to you.
Thank you. Now I need a nap. Now we're going to move on to today's main topic. Whenever we have a guest here on the show, we have them bring a film. And Josh's pick for this week, he reached out to me before Comic-Con even. It was like, hey, have you guys seen Vanilla Sky? Because I would love to watch that again and talk to you guys about it on the show. So we watched Vanilla Sky, the 1999 Cameron Crowe film, starring Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz, and Penelope Cruz. So Josh, tell us a little bit about why you wanted to watch this film.
This I've just always loved this film. I don't know what happened, but like when I reached out to you a week or two ago, my YouTube algorithm was suddenly just pushing deleted scenes from this movie, and I don't know why. Like I hadn't recently searched for it. Maybe I was listening to the soundtrack, because I absolutely love the soundtrack and the score for this movie. And then all of a sudden I was getting all these things. I'm like, man, I really want to watch this. And now anytime I watch like an old movie that I haven't seen for a while, I think of this podcast, and I'm like, well, yes. I don't just want to watch it alone. I want to see if I can share it with the guys. So, but yeah, my history with this movie, I remember when it came out, and I was too young to see it in theaters, and you know the way the trailers sold it was just like this. There was this, you know, I think like sex and mystery and death were like flashing on the trailer and something like that, and it looked like a sexy movie, you know, and not something that I'd be allowed to see back then. Well, I was in high school. I could have gone to see it, but when I finally saw it later, it was so not the movie that I expected it to be. And then I just became obsessed with, you know, where did this movie come from? And oh my God, Penelope Cruz was in the original movie for this, and then they brought it to America, and then the music behind it and the behind the scenes of the production. And it's just always been one of my favorite kind of mindfuck movies. I'm sorry if I can't guess it, but it's definitely like it screws with your mind, and I've always loved those types of movies, and this one definitely ranks up there for that kind of stuff.
Devin and Ryan, had you guys seen this movie before?
Never.
No.
Okay. I thought I hadn't seen it, and then as soon as you see Tom Cruise in the latex mask, I was like, "Oh, I've seen the end of this movie before." I had seen enough of the movie. I was like, "Oh, I should go back and watch this from the beginning," and then never did. And it's been like 10 years or plus since I'd seen it, so I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on. All I know is I saw the end of this once. It's like, oh, that was interesting. I want to see that from the beginning. And then there I was.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, yeah. I almost had exactly what you had with this movie, Josh, where I didn't know what this movie was, and I went, "Oh, okay. He's having us watch a rom-com. All right, I'll watch a
Yep.
rom-com today." And like just kind of like literally before I like sat down today, I'm like, "All right, I'm in the mood to watch a rom-com. Let's laugh, let's learn, let's feel." Was not the movie I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Brian,
like if you watched like A Beautiful Mind for the romance at the beginning,
Right.
and then had no, yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
this is the same level for me. Yeah.
Ryan, what'd you think?
Okay. So prior to watching it, I had stayed away from it because I pulled a Devon on this one when I was younger, or when it first came out, and I alluded it to a lot of the other Tom Cruise movies that weren't Mission Impossible that came out around the turn of the millennium, which meant they were boring and I wanted nothing to do with them. So that's the lump I threw this movie in back then, and I just kind of like kept it there. I wasn't ready for a Tom Cruise Matrix movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that I mean I'm still on the fence. I need to watch it again to really determine what my true feelings are for the movie. I don't know when I'll get around to rewatching it though, but I definitely need to watch it again to like get my feelings straight on it.
Definitely a long movie for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was not expecting that too. I was not expecting.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about our feelings about the movie, I'm going to go ahead and say that I liked the movie. Like, I did like it a lot. And I know I liked it because at one point, my wife Ramona asked, "What was the movie about?" And I didn't just say, "Oh, it's a Tom Cruise Matrix movie." I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So the movie starts like this, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then I got like excited. It was like, "Oh, and then by the way, this was happening the whole time." And actually, when it was this scene, it was actually this scene. I was like, "All right, I like this."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. Like once I saw the mask, I was like, there's something at the end of this that made me go, I want to watch the rest of this. And I couldn't remember what it was. I was like, okay, so it's the levels of things and like what's a dream and what isn't, and why is everything happening the way it is. If we didn't say it already, spoilers for Vanilla Sky, but it's been out for 24 years. So yeah,
And it
like
holds up still. I still think it holds up. Like
Yeah.
the concept.
I think it does too. But that soundtrack though, like, was amazing. Like, you said you have the soundtrack to this on vinyl.
I have the limited edition vinyl. Yes, that came with
What?
it's like a dual LP. I forgot how I got it, but it's really hard to find now. And it comes with like a strip of the film, and it's white instead of the normal thing. It's got the front of it is the immemorial picture that they used for his funeral for Tom Cruise, and I've always loved that vinyl. The music, the soundtrack is amazing. Just all the songs, and then the score for it by Nancy Wilson is also amazing. And she had worked on previous films with Cameron Crowe, and her guitar stuff and the reoccurring theme that plays in different ways, that is something that if I need to like calm the hell down, or if I need to write something, that just gets me in the mode. It's really just calming music, and I love it. But yeah, I've always loved that soundtrack. There's some great tracks on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do we want to talk about with this movie? Because there are so many levels of this that we can talk about.
There's a lot.
Where do we want to start?
So, Josh, you said earlier about a lot of the stuff that happened behind the scenes, that there was like an earlier version of this movie. Like, you've totally piqued my interest with all of that. Could you speak to that a little more?
Yeah, so this movie came out in 2001, and Penelope Cruz had recently starred in a Spanish version of it called I'm gonna screw it up. Abre los ojos, Open Your Eyes is the Spanish version, and
they say that in the movie.
yeah, and it came out in 1997. they debuted it at Sundance Film Festival in '98, and Tom Cruise saw it at that film festival, and immediately he was working with he'd already done Jerry Maguire with Cameron Crowe, and he's like, you need to see this movie, and then we need to acquire it to do it. And so not only did they rewrite it for American audiences, but then they loved Penelope Cruz in it so much that they brought her back for the same role, and the rest is history. But that kind of stuff, the crazy amount of money that they dropped to clear out Times Square for real. I mean, up until that point, that had never been done before, and that's not CGI. That was like a real scene. They secured like maybe 3 hours to do that, and
Wow.
I just always thought that was a really cool scene that they pulled off in real life.
It's incredible. I didn't know any of that. And one of the questions I wanted to ask the group is, you're in New York City, you leave your hotel or your house, you see that Times Square is empty. Is your first reaction just to run?
So
or is it just because it's Tom Cruise?
So I can answer that right away. So first off, before even entering Times Square, when he's driving by Central Park and
Yeah.
there's no one out, I'm getting maybe half a block with no one around and going right back to my apartment. I'm not continuing to drive. I'm not doing anything. If I live in New York City and I walk out and there's literally no one within vision, like range, or I don't hear any noises or anything, I'm going back to my apartment.
Yeah, because that was like at 9 a.m. Like you see him look
Yeah.
at it, and it's like at 9. Like I have flown out of New York, before it's dawn, and so I had to get like a Uber at 3 in the morning to the airport, and we've driven through Times Square, and even then there's still people around. Like it's definitely more empty, but it's never that empty, and certainly not when the sun's out. So I always thought that was a really cool visual.
Yeah, the thing that caught me off guard, having just been in Times Square last week, was how far he gets his car, because a lot of that has become just pedestrian walkways now. So you can't even drive. Like
Yes.
it's harder to you could drive it, but it's harder to get a car in there. If I had New York to myself like that, the first thing I would do is either I would break into the Ed Sullivan Theater and pretend that I'm Stephen Colbert. I would head to 30 Rock and pretend that I'm hosting SNL. Like I would just make the rounds of all the spots, and like that's what I would do if I had New York to myself. Like I would just lean into it and have some fun.
I love the idea that like Alan would just go party where like Tom Cruise was like primal scream, like
Yep.
existential crisis. Alan's like, no, playground's open, let's go.
Yep. I'm gonna break into the Flatiron Building and demand
See?
pictures of Spider-Man.
Unfortunately, my mind goes right to I Am Legend in that scenario.
Oh yeah.
That's why I'm like, I'm going back to my apartment, because
Hiding
there's
out in
no
the bathtub.
reason rationally for no one to be out in New York.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that stupid person that like everyone's looking out their window going, doesn't he know what's going on? Get the heck back inside.
Yeah, either the rapture happened, but that doesn't make sense because it's New York, so there'd still be plenty of people around, or like a massive invasion or something. But yeah, it was but it turns out it was just a glitch in the Matrix, and then they reset and he woke back up in bed. But
Yeah.
hell of a way to start the movie. I really liked the progression of this movie when they just when they slowly start bringing in the interrogation scenes, and he's in jail and he's talking to Kurt Russell. Like it's not like abrupt, but when it starts happening, you're like, oh wait, this is not the same movie that I was just watching, and then they slowly bring in more, and it's less about just the life of a billionaire playboy, but like, wait, he's being charged for murder. Like who did he kill, and how did it get to that point, and what's with the mask, and just the mystery that unfolds and then the craziness afterwards. It's just I always like the structure of the film, even though it is a long film and it kind of takes a minute to get there, but I was always intrigued by, okay, where are we going from here?
I think the movie had me from the get because honestly, when they did that, in the very like first shot of the movie is the kind of pan of New York that everyone does, right? You get the top down, you get the Brooklyn Bridge, you get the cars driving by, and I was expecting a Sheryl Crow song, and instead I got nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and was really intrigued about why I was getting literally nothing. And like the movie literally gripped me because it's so like dissonant, right? Like I wanted, I again went into it with a rom com in mind, so I was like, okay, this is gonna be a fun poppy thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, is my computer broken? Why is this? And I loved it.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to something you said there a second ago about the dream at the beginning being a glitch in the Matrix. So is that all part of the lucid dream as well, or is that still stuff from before the lucid dream? Because I thought it was stuff beforehand.
Ah.
Well, that's I mean, you're right. It could have been. I mean, yeah, I guess in sequence things, it could be, unless he was replaying things over, like resetting things himself. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's the question. Like, there is a, well, this is where the split happened moment, but then his ability to like control things, you wonder if he's replaying this over and over and over in his head, and they're trying to get him to stop, or they're trying to fix it as he replays. So I don't know, that could have just been a dream and been like his fear of being alone in the world, and reflecting on himself and the gray hair thing. But just the way that he does things in the dream and then he wakes up and he does them again, it could have been one or the other. There's a lot of things that are spelled out, and then other things that are left
Yeah.
up to interpretation. So another reason I felt.
Yeah, because I mean, Cameron Diaz saying like, "Hey, it only throws a wrench in it being just an easy answerable question
Mhm.
about that dream at the beginning," because that happens 3 times throughout the movie, and it's very important when it
Mhm.
happens.
Right.
And so her doing that definitely throws a wrench into making that an easy answer, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
What did you guys think of Cameron Diaz's character?
I mean, it's like I normally see her as kind of like a comedic actress. Like that's mainly what I've seen her do. And something like this, like,
But her part of the holiday, we had this conversation in
all I'm
Brooklyn.
gonna do is see her character in
I'm-
that movie.
Yeah. I just can't. I can't talk. The delay's gotten too bad, so I'm just gonna jump in here and there when I can.
I did feel her.
Okay. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
We'll give extra space. He was definitely.
I figured something was up. This like, as soon as David, open your eyes, and you had Monet's Vanilla Sky. I don't know if that's the name of the painting. He mentioned it. His snowboard was that. He's in purgatory. He's dead. He's in a computer. He's in a dream. Something's happening here that's not real reality. And then it was
At that point, I just felt so bad for him. Like at that point, I just felt so bad for him. Like the precursor scene to that, the nightclub scene. I was like, man, this is the lowest of low. He's lost and it hurt to watch today. Like he's lost the love of his life, and he thinks that his friend is with her, and I didn't want to believe that was the point, But then other things on top of that.
Yeah. Alan, what did you think? Were you able to guess the ending of this one?
At a certain point, I remembered there was a satisfying ending to this that I was like, oh, I need to the point where they chose to split it off. Like everything from that point on was in the lucid dream. But beyond that, yeah, I kind of saw it.
I, you know, my theory for all of it was always like, is this different dimensions? This is like gonna be like a Spider Verse. For some reason, like they hint at it almost the whole time with Benny the dog, and they really hit Benny the dog. And I was just like, what a weird detail to include in a movie. I'll ignore it every time they brought it up.
And that's why they do that. That's why they do.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of the Conan O'Brien
Sprinkle that in a
cameo.
lot.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that was fun. Okay, so I'm Devin. I'm unequivocally Devin, and I hone in on really stupid things about movies.
Just waiting for this.
There was a piece of the movie that I saw, and I was like, if this was like 20 years ago, this particular part of the movie would have blown my mind. And it was the retractable screen. That's like nothing now.
That's
Like,
like super thick and kind of small.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like chunky goes down.
I love that kind of stuff. I watched the Game for the first time a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you've ever seen that. And there's a scene where he's in his mansion sitting on a sofa watching this little box TV from like across the room, and I'm like, this is the height of luxury, you know. But yeah, I do love little things like that. But the fact that he had, you know, his car and everything, and I mean, you could still tell, like, he's pretty rich.
Got it. I know what this movie, like, I get it.
With watch, but that was just could have been like half as long, and would have gotten. It was really cool beforehand of them going back and forth, like her going into the bathroom, then coming out. And then constantly going back and forth, and him like having like a panic attack on the floor. And then when they got to the bed, like, and then when they got to that scene with her flipping, like, at that point, I was like, okay, enough's happened. I know that this is in his head. And they kept on switching back and was so relieved that I'm like, okay, I'm seeing the mole, and then realizing like who it was. And I was like, huh, they should have done this like 30 seconds ago. It would have been fine.
For me, I like the twist.
He said, this movie's why they dated for what, 3-4 years?
I think it's adorable.
Me on a movie set. That's how we met.
The one thing I will say about that scene the scene you didn't like, Ryan, is there was this almost realistic, like, couple of seconds where Tom to Penelope Cruz, and then she switches to Cameron Diaz, and you can see on his face, he's like, do I keep going? Like, that bit of it, I was like, all right, like, I'll give him that for that scene.
Yeah, like that, and it turned into this weird time of him going, I can't take this anymore. Like, extreme pleasure mixed with extreme distress, and it went on for way too long. And that was my main issue, where it was like, okay, I get it. This is, you know, totally messing him up. Is this going to end? Because I get it. Is it going to end? And again, the same thing. Like, I was just waiting for it to finally, like, come to the conclusion of whatever that was going to be.
No pun intended. Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, I mean, then things kind of move along after that. Like, he admits, you know, that he remembers killing her and every part of the life extension thing, because he sees the Benny the dog commercial, and then we get a young Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, we do.
I
forgot about.
That was so cool to see. Like, she, like, it's always good to see her in a movie. Would you stop? My cat. Spite.
And not only Tilda Swinton, but Noah Taylor was that guy that kept on showing up, and he'd see him around, and he was a little weird, and things started falling apart. So the whole speaking of the Matrix, the whole shootout kind of reminiscent of the Matrix, and they're all like shooting at him, and he's realizing that he's not getting hit, so he takes up a gun and thinks it's all fake and starts shooting and ends up killing Michael Shannon. And then him and Kurt Russell get obliterated by the cops. Like they just shoot him up. And then they wake up and they're perfectly fine, and everybody else in the lobby is gone. And I thought that was just a crazy alternate scene that they cut out of there.
Oh,
I can
wow.
understand why they cut it, but that's really insane. Like, I kind of want to watch that scene now.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Alan, any thoughts? Keep on wanting to give him space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have much else. The way the live stream is going to work, and with my delay, like I'm trying to let you guys have the conversation so I don't interrupt the video too much. But no, I think you guys have covered most of what I had. I really am interested in
The movie is the elevator scene going up to the roof. Just the tech guy laying it all out. Nancy Wilson's song "Elevator" playing in the background, and he not only explains where the slice was, but then he explains what really happened. And what really happened is a mix of melancholy, but then you couldn't get over the loss and the suicide thing, and just it's such a heavy scene, but it's so well filmed, and the pills scene spliced with the car crash and the tech guy simply saying, consequences, David. Like, we all have to live with the consequences of our actions. And I mean, with the music swelling in the background, I thought that was such a beautiful scene. It gets me every time. His choice. Like, that was just, it's a gorgeous scene.
Do you love that, like, Tom Cruise is in charge of what Kurt Russell does?
Right.
It's just
the fatherness of To Kill a Mockingbird guy, and I just
Atticus Finch.
And Brian caught it when them walking down the snowy road was based off of an album cover that made him feel nostalgic. And that's me. Like, I'll see a painting or an album cover and be like, God, I want to live in that moment, and to see that that's how he crafted things. And so that's my question to you guys. If you guys had gone through all this trauma, and was now said, hey, we can fix all of this, we can wipe it, we'll give you the upgrade, you can literally be the god of your own existence and live out your amazing life, or you can take what funds you have left, be in the future, 150 years, and survive.
So I am going to say, hey, can you give me like a little, can you give me like the evening news from yesterday?
Yeah, give me a flash.
3 shells. The 3 shells, yes.
Okay. So if the morality laws were,
Josh, what about you?
Thought a loophole might be, well, can I have it both ways? Like, life, I mean, especially, this is gonna kind of get dark. I just like the way to go. Like, I have the fall, but I always thought that was an interesting way to end the movie. Is that's how he has to do it,
Yeah.
And that scene with him, part of his character's childhood and growing up, and little thing of Tom Cruise as a high school wrestler and stuff like that, with the music and just the you still don't, you're hoping that heavy scene.
It was, yeah. I really want to know Alan's answer to that question. What would you do?
I would try to find a loophole and try to do a little bit of both, like present day with all of the money, and like live the best life that you could.
Yeah.
And like the stipulation of like what I would want to know before I get out of the simulation. Just like are the Marvel movies still good? Are they good again, or like what phase are we on?
It's like a really good plug for your podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many Spider-Man actors are there now? And yeah, sure.
Spider.
So, well, I thank you for watching this. I would highly. There's so many deleted scenes. I still haven't seen all of them. Another one of my favorite deleted scenes is when the tech guy kind of takes him through his own funeral, and he walks around his apartment and sees his best friend Jason Lee, who on his face like, I was horrible to you, and yet you're here, and that's because yeah, that's a lot of films in his list, and I think a lot of people haven't seen this film because they saw a trailer for it and thought that it was some kind of crazy sexual romance or romantic drama or something like that, and back in the Magnolia days of Tom Cruise's career, and maybe not worth watching. But it was the subtle sci-fi angle of it has always blown me away.
Yeah.
I love that I have to resort to raising my hand to say anything on the show. But I will say that
Yeah, and I hate old story. A male, and he's got like a ponytail, and he's like, "This is how you get the woman," and and he's like a womanizer. It's a weird movie. I just never liked it. Yeah,
gross. I wouldn't like that. What,
drama,
Patton Oswalt's in it? What?
Yeah, it's got a hell of a cast as well. Yeah.
Anything else before we wrap this up?
I think that's all I got.
Okay.
Devin, you should do the honors of closing us out, since Alan's kind of
instead of Alan waiting for it.
Yeah, because it's So as long as Alan's okay.
Totally
with
happy. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. If there's anything, perfect. So first off, thank you so much, Josh, for coming.
Thanks.
This was incredible. I do appreciate you. If you have any other movie recommendations, if you ever get nostalgic again for these types of movies, please, please, please keep us in mind, because these are movies that I haven't seen before, and I love watching these kinds of movies. So thank you so much. So next week is Ryan's pick. Ryan, what is your pick for next week?
My pick for next week is 2019's Haunt.
Have you seen that one, Josh?
I know what it is, so that's cool.
I haven't even heard of it before, so I am excited to watch that. But in the meantime, if you would like to watch any more of these recordings that we do live, or if you'd like to follow us, we are on Spot with us linked on there. And also we have these recordings available on YouTube as well, so definitely follow us on there and give us a like on YouTube. That does help us out. Otherwise, for You Have to Watch This podcast, I'm Devin. He's waving for the audio listeners. He's waving. He's here, I promise. But but thank you guys so much. Yeah, he has the Silent Bob potato head. That's exactly his role today. Yeah, but thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you next week.